What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review. This time we're taking a look at Waterworld, starring Kevin Costner and directed by Kevin Reynolds. Waterworld is the infamous action movie that by 1995 was the most expensive movie ever made and was the biggest box office bomb Hollywood ever made. Waterworld is often labeled as one of the worst movies ever made. So, how do I feel about Waterworld? It's actually not that bad of a movie when you watch this. See, Waterworld is not the greatest action movie you ever see in your life, but it's not really offensively bad either. It is just a paint-by-numbers post-apocalyptic action movie that is heavily inspired by the Mad Max movies. Now, Waterworld does not have the technical precision of the Mad Max movies, nor does it has the same grittiness and or feeling of a Mad Max movie, but you can tell that it's influenced by Mad Max. Waterworld is basically Mad Max on water. It's Mad Max at sea. That's really what Waterworld is. It's not, the plot of this movie is not complicated whatsoever. Kevin Costner plays this nameless mariner who is traveling the open seas. He comes across this little village in the middle of the ocean. He sees these two women. They all join together because the little girl has a map to dry land, and they're being chased by this group of bandits known as the Smokers, led by the Deacon, played by Dennis Hopper. That is basically the overall story of Waterworld. There's nothing really overly complicated about this plot. There's really nothing really to go off of. Waterworld is the definition of a turn your brain off action movie. Now again, does that make Waterworld bad? No, it's not. It's a standard 90s action movie. It's entertaining in a lot of areas. The movie's never boring. Some of the acting in this movie can be really not that great. Some casting choices are very questionable, and other members of the cast are actually quite enjoyable. To put it like this, Kevin Costner, who plays the mariner, I actually think he's the weakest part of this movie. Kevin Costner, he is a good actor, but when it comes to action movies, you can clearly tell that he's just not suited for these types of roles. I like the mariner on paper is a good concept. He's pretty much like a human fish hybrid. He's kind of like Aquaman, only Aquaman is much more cooler than the mariner. But if a better actor was playing the mariner, then he could actually been cool. Kevin Costner's performance in this movie, like I said, he's just not suited for action movies. This is the guy who was really good at playing these very grounded and realistic characters, like in Field of Dreams, like in The Untouchables. Kevin Costner is good at playing these everyman characters. He's not good at playing these, action-oriented type of roles. And honestly, truthfully, Costner, he is the weakest link out of this entire movie. I don't really think he has a lot of good chemistry with a lot of the cast members. He doesn't really have this commanding screen presence as an action star. He truly is the weakest link, especially when he's sharing screen with Dennis Hopper. You can clearly tell which one has the more screen presence and which one lacks the screen presence. But that's not to say that in certain scenes, Kevin Costner doesn't hold his own. In the action scenes that are in this movie, I give Costner a lot of credit. He put in the physicality for it. In terms of the acting department, he can come across as just very lifeless, very wooden. Like, I get the mariner's supposed to be like this, near stoic type of character, but put some emotion into it. This is like 1995 standards. A young Thomas Jane, I thought could have been perfect in a role like this. Why not? But, Kevin Costner was a big deal at the time, and this was like a passion project, I guess. So, yeah. In some scenes, in the action sequences, I think Costner was pretty good. In the acting department, he was the weakest link. Janine Triplehorn, who played Helen, she's kind of like this sort of love interest to the mariner. Like I said, there's not really a whole lot of chemistry there, and there are a lot of scenes where the Helen character can come across as just flat out annoying. But Janine Triplehorn is a gorgeous woman, and she tries. And I'm just going to leave it at that. The little girl who plays Enola, she was fine too. The movie tries to develop this kind of sort of friendship between her and the mariner. At first, it's hostility because Mariner wants nothing to do with Helen and Enola. But as the film progresses, they kind of form a little bit of a bond. and that stuff is okay. Like the Mariner, Helen, and Amanola, we follow these three very prominently throughout the movie. So we have to like them, and to the movie's credit, it tries. Well, like I said, I just don't think there's enough chemistry between the three actors for me to really care. And a lot of that, again, has to do with Kevin Costner just not being suited for this movie. So, yeah, that's really my biggest gripes. Really, is Kevin Costner, and he's really the weakest link. Uh, Now, there are a lot of positives that I actually found in this movie. Dennis Hopper as the villain Deacon, he's a lot of fun. He chews the scenery, he's enjoyably over the top, and it's Dennis Hopper. Dennis Hopper is always going to be entertaining in everything he's in, and I loved him in this movie as the Deacon. Such a memorable, over-the-top performance, and you can clearly tell that Hopper's having a lot of fun playing this role. He's got some really memorable quotes, some really memorable lines. I just wish that this movie could have really developed more of a rivalry between the Deacon and the Mariner on a more personal level, instead of just the Deacon wanting to find him just to get a map. It would have been cool if they had like an understated history with one another. I think that would have been more interesting. I think that could have added to the rivalry a little bit. That's just me personally. But what we got, Dennis Hopper as the Deacon, no complaints. He's funny as hell. And the rest of the supporting cast is okay. Michael Jeter plays this guy called Gregor, who invents like this helicopter type thing. He's okay. He has like a handful of scenes. You see him in the beginning, and then he comes back later in the third act to try to save the Mariner and Helen. His role is fine. And other characters that are in this movie, they're fine too, but they're nameless and they're hard to remember. Now, this movie's strongest suits really is the technical precision. This is a good-looking movie from a cinematography standpoint. This movie looks great. It's got a really good atmosphere. I think Kevin Reynolds and his cinematographer, Dean Semler, do a really good job at creating this world that is completely covered by ocean and surrounded by complete nothingness. I like it. It looks good. Like I said, this is Mad Max at sea, and they really do a good job at pretty much saying that, hey, the world is submerged underwater. There's nothing left. I like how we got moments to see how the society works a little bit, how everything has to be done through trades, like rations, pretty much. That stuff is pretty interesting to see. I like the technical precision of a lot of the practical effects. This movie is beautiful from a practical effects standpoint. Everything is in camera. Everything looks real. Hardly any CGI. Though there are some moments where the green screen and the CGI effects could look really, really bad, but the practical effects and how those look outweigh those CGI moments to the T. And thankfully, this movie didn't have to over-rely on any CG, which I can appreciate, because it makes this world look lived in. It makes the world feel more realistic. And I appreciate that. I like it. The costume designs and wardrobes, very unique, very post-apocalyptic. Like I said, very similar to Mad Max. So I got no complaints with that whatsoever. And again, the story of Waterworld, it's fairly simple to follow. I wish we would have had more time to explore more of Waterworld, see how other civilizations are adapt to this society. We see how one civilization adapts, where they pretty much have gone into incest in order to do population, and if you're a hybrid like the Mariner, they pretty much view you as an abomination and have to destroy you. All that stuff is just weak. And then you got some silly moments where the Mariner is pretty much taking a piss and processing it into water. And you got some other goofy moments peppered all throughout the movie that are just like cringy but stupid. It's like, yeah, Waterworld does have its moments where it can come across as just a little bit cringe in a lot of areas. But again, I find the movie to be overall very entertaining. I don't hate this thing. I get a lot of enjoyment out of it. It's a basic movie. It's an action movie. It does what it needs to do. It doesn't tell an overly complicated story. I mean, if anything, this movie kind of runs maybe a little bit too long, kind of drags in a lot of areas. You could literally shave off like 20 minutes of this movie, and it's not really going to change anything. If anything, it's going to run much more smoother, just as me personally. So with all that being said, Waterworld for me gets a solid, I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. It's enjoyable. Give it a watch. Why not? But anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe. And I'll check you back next time for more.